Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Sunday, November 27th. So today we still have the moon in Capricorn for the majority of the day. Of course, we will be going void, of course, 3:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be locking into Aquarian energy at 5:08 p.m. So anytime we're shifting out of the earth energy from Capricorn to the air energy of Aquarius, of course, we have lighter vibes. What we kind of were focused on in this Capricorn energy, the to-do list, the weight, the heaviness of the roles and responsibilities that we have, where we feel blocked, where we feel challenged, where we feel held back, suddenly becomes illuminated. And then we get to work on a strategy to free ourselves, find a little bit more independence, switch things up in Aquarian energy. So we will have that shift take place later on here today. There are 11 different aspects. 10 of them involve the moon. The moon is going to make a really awkward interaction with Saturn, its ruler, who is in Aquarian energy. And this particular energy aspect is going to bring a huge amount of weight, of heaviness, onto our shoulders, onto our heart space, onto our head space, focusing on our rules, our roles, our responsibilities, what is old, tried, tested, and true, where it is that we have obligations and commitments, and where it is that we're kind of feeling a little bit stuck, a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit like these particular tasks, routines, and chores are sucking the life force energy out of us. Now, this illumination should show us where it is that we do feel stuck, where it is that we have outgrown certain tasks, routines, and responsibilities in order for us to realize where new foundations, systems, routines need to be built. This is switching up the energy exchange around our commitments and recognizing where it is that we feel bogged down and where it is that we need to set ourselves free. The moon is going to semi-square the sun. And anytime that we have the moon and the sun coming together, it is this very awkward overlap. The moon is representative of our emotions, of our intuition, our unconscious self, and very connected to the past. And in Capricorn energy, we like to keep things old, tried, tested, and true, traditional, if you will. While the sun over here, a fire energy, in Sagittarius energy, a fire energy, wants to shine a bright light on the new adventure, the new quest for truth, the new meaning, the new purpose of our experiences. And of course, very much representing the future that we want to be walking into. What we're left with is a little bit of a conflict, a little bit of a tension point in the present moment of the here and now, recognizing what it is that we have to let go of in order to have the space, the freedom to align with something new. The moon is going to make an aspect with Mars, who is retrograde in Gemini energy, in such a way that would kind of suggest that we have an opportunity to exert ourselves. Now, Mars being retrograde means that this particular energy is more internalized than anything else. In a forward, direct position, Mars likes to put that life force energy out into the world in order to align and aggress ourselves in pursuit of our passions, of our desires. Now, being in Gemini energy does kind of illuminate the fact that we are stuck in the mental plane, really kind of divided on our choices, on our decisions, on our paths, on our direction. But the moon in Capricorn grounds us out, puts us in a more logical, practical sense of, I'm going to say, perception, in order for us to take a look at this pro and con list, our choices, our decisions, from a more grounded perspective, a long-term perspective. And of course, definitely giving us the opportunity to take a step forward, leaning in to one path, one direction, one decision, one choice point over the other. The moon will sextile, which is a beautiful energy, with Neptune, who is retrograde in Pisces energy, its place of power. So what we got going on here is a beautiful mixture between A, aligning with our higher selves. B, listening to our intuition. C, moving off into la imaginary land in order to grasp a dream and a vision on what it is that we actually feel called to pursue. And the moon in Capricorn brings it into our physical bodies, earths it, grounds it. We start kind of mulling it over, seeing where it is that we can apply some practicality to it, some logic to it, where it is that we can strategize, how it is that we have to go ahead and start bringing some of these dreamy elements to life. The moon is going to make a very harmonious aspect with Mars. Now, we just had an awkward aspect earlier, and now this time we are definitely feeling the more positive energy. What this is going to do is help us focus, help us be a little bit more determined, help us be a little bit more motivated in order to actually take action in our lives, either to clean up the loose ends of the past or initiate the brand new path, the brand new decision, the brand new choice point that, of course, this whole Mars being retrograde in Gemini energy has us really torn over. Whatever the case, we are becoming a little bit more focused on the long-term goal. A good question to constantly be asking yourself as you're presented with choices and decisions is, does this bring me closer to or further away from my vision, from my dream, from my goal? The moon goes ahead, conjuncts, sits next to, bumps into, teams up with Pluto, the great transformer, who of course is at the latter degrees of this Capricorn energy. Now, this is going to go one of two ways. Either A, we're going to sink into a pit of a negative narrative. We're going to be focused on the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, on the fears, on the doubts, on the insecurities. We're going to really struggle with the heaviness, with the weight of the world on our shoulders and become very obsessive, maybe even fixated on some of the problems in life. Or we could really feel a sense of empowerment, a boss up, a new level of authority in our lives. We could be fixated and obsessed with problem solving. We could be fixated and obsessed with being as productive as we could possibly be in our physical lives, and in turn sort out our mental and emotional wants, needs, and desires as we keep the physical body engaged. Regardless, this is a very intense energy. Plutonian energy is very intense, very extreme. And of course, the earth energy is very low, very slow, has the tendency to be a little bit of a negative Nancy, which definitely could open the opportunity for us to do a deep dive in the shadow realm that, of course, Pluto rules over, in order for us to get our minds right on where it is that we have to build ourselves back up in a better way. Now, Mercury, who rules over the mental plane, and Uranus, who is the great awakener and essentially rules over the higher mental plane, we have an interaction between these two, which is going to be very, very interesting. Mercury is in Sagittarius energy. So we're unfocused, we're scatterbrained, we're overexcited, we have lots of ideas, we can't complete a thought, we're all over the place. But we're fired up, we're heavily charged. We definitely have a lot of enthusiasm. This Uranian energy, the great awakener, who likes to shock us, who likes to awe us, who likes to kind of trigger an aha moment, a perspective that we can't unknow, is retrograde in Taurus energy. Supposed to be highlighting for us where it is that we're overly attached to ideas, to people, to places, to things, to possessions, to titles, all these earthly realm labels. Now, because Uranus is the higher intellect, Mercury rules the lower intellect. And what we get with this very awkward interaction between the two is some very unclear thoughts, unclear ideas, unclear direction, an unclear narrative. We're bouncing around. We're all over the place. And what we want, what we're thinking, we are having a hard time thinking, a hard time completing a thought. We're all over the place. It almost feels like whatever it is that we were sure about suddenly feels like it just fell apart. There's a lot of mental disorganization here. We're bouncing around from one thing to the next, trying to make sense of things. It's not going to make sense until this energy passes. And it's going to have a huge effect on our anxiety level, on our, I'm going to say, central nervous system. If you haven't listened to the Ascension forecast this week, you should probably do that. We talked a little bit about the central nervous system and how it regulates the electricity in the body and how it kind of monitors the electricity coming in from the cosmos and what that means for our sensory system. So go ahead and dive into that. Overall, this is going to feel hella overwhelming. It's going to feel like there is too much electricity bouncing around. It is going to feel very hard to focus on one thing and again, complete a thought. The moon goes ahead and sextiles, which is a beautiful energy, with Jupiter, who is about growth and expansion, about abundance and blessings and belief, who is now direct in this Pisces energy. If you didn't listen to that astro forecast, go ahead, dive into that. We are kind of redoing some things that we didn't do as well as our soul needed them to do back in the end of March, beginning of April of this year. Now, Jupiter intensifies everything, magnifies everything, turns the volume all the way up on whatever it is that we're thinking and feeling. Now, lucky for us, this is a positive interaction, which means that we're tapping into the positive aspects of the Capricorn energy, which is A, we're very grounded, we're very logical, we're very practical. B, we have a huge amount of responsibility. We're looking at our to-do list, we're looking at our roles in life, we're looking at our commitments and obligations. But instead of feeling overwhelmed by them, we are ready to boss up and take this challenge on. And C, we are definitely thinking big. We are thinking long-term. We are trying to strategize new plans in order to bring some of these new ideas to life. And it's feeling positive. We actually have a very strong, motivated, determined type of narrative with this particular aspect. But this is the last aspect before the moon goes void, of course. And the minute that the moon goes void, things get shaky, things get unstable, we're uncertain. Negative Nancy comes out to play. It's really not a good vibe, of course, until we lock into Aquarian energy. The moon, while void, though, makes a semi-square to Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and worth and pleasure. And she's in Sagittarius energy, just trying to have a good time, seeking more meaning, more purpose in her relationships, in her connections. But this is a semi-square, which means that this is a conflict. This is a tension point. And because the moon is void, things fall apart. We're very unsure with what it is that we want, need, and desire. We're unsure with the amount of healing that we have to do in our particular relationships. We're unsure of our money matters at this time, and it could create a lot of unfocused, undirected anxiety energy in us. Again, it's our choice on how it is that we focus this energy. And if we don't give it something to focus on or something to do, it is going to manifest as anxiety, as just these awful, gross feelings within us. And lucky for us, the void of course moon doesn't last too long. We lock into this Aquarian energy at 5:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and at 5:30 p.m. we have our first aspect with the moon in Aquarius making a very positive interaction with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is retrograde in Aries energy, showing us where it is that we have to heal, where it is that we have to reinvent ourselves, rebrand ourselves, rebuild ourselves in a lot of different ways. Now, this is a positive aspect, and the moon in Aquarius wants nothing more than for us to be progressive, for us to be innovative, for us to be more independent in the quest for freedom. And of course, we have to give ourselves permission to leave those parts of our old self behind in order to align with the new version of ourselves that we have to be in order to manifest the elements of our lives that we are focused on pursuing. This is about a vision of growth, a vision of healing, a recognition, if you will, of the amount of work that we've done and where it is that we still need to kind of pour a little bit more time, energy into detaching from the old relationships, the old soul contracts, the old version of ourselves that are essentially blocking from us moving forward. The last aspect that we have here today is the moon in Aquarius semi-squaring with Mercury. Again, this is a tension point. Our heart and our head are not in agreement. They're not on the same page. The moon in Aquarius wants us to kind of dance to the beat of our own drum, wants us to kind of Think about the future, the big vision, how to break it down into smaller pieces, how it is that we need to kind of disconnect from some of the attachments, especially of relationships and ideas that we become a little bit too focused on and obsessed with. And Mercury over here in Sag just has big ideas. Of course, none of them are focused, none of them are clear, we're bouncing around, but what we know to be true is that the moon and Mercury is our heart, is our head, and Aquarian energy and Sag energy, being air and fire, have the potential to really create a new spark, a new interest, a new inspiration, and for us to run with it if we can control our thoughts, if we can control our emotions. Because this is a semi-square, because we're expecting a little bit of tension between our heart and our head, please pay attention to the gap. Where do we need to compromise? Where do we need to get on the same page? What is the difference? What is the determining factor of getting our heart and head on the same page and focused on taking the same path, the same direction forward?